Welcome to Canadian Coffee House Crime. My name is Catherine. I am currently residing in the town of Jasper, Alberta. If you're ever in the area, try some water rafting, go horseback riding, go camping at the second largest campground in Canada, check out the wapiti that are everywhere, and maybe do some karaoke on a Wednesday night at the Athabee Hotel. I thought I would cover all of the stories from the haunted stamp and coin collection that the Canadian Mint put together in 2016. Now, after covering the haunted stamp and coin collection from 2014 and 2015, and now 2016, I started to notice a pattern. There are a lot of stories surrounding phantom ladies in white. I covered the Lady in White from the Banff Springs Hotel, the Lady in Grey from the Halifax Citadel, the Jaded Marie-Josette Corriveau. My last story was a Lady in White from the Winter Garden Theatre in Toronto. There is a Lady in Red in the Fairmont, Vancouver, the Lady in White from Belle Island in Newfoundland, and today is the Lady in White from Quebec. So I thought I would go down the rabbit hole a little bit and look into the phenomenon of the ladies in white, which turned out to be a universal phenomenon dating back to the beginning of time. A white lady, usually a weeping woman, are common legends in rural areas and are often most linked to a local tragedy. White ladies are called this because they dress in all white and are either semi-transparent or fully transparent. White is both symbolic of death plus purity. White is the color of bones and ash. White is also what brides dress in when they get married. It is thought that white ladies are only seen in white, not just because they have died, but also because they are innocent. The events surrounding them are what led them to die, but they are often a pure being who was gone before their time. There are two common types of white ladies: the one who are betrayed by a lover or a male close to them. They are either killed by the male or commit suicide because they were betrayed. The second ones who have died of broken hearts and are seen weeping at the scene of their death. While the first usually seeks revenge, the latter is often just trying to find their lost love. The scorned white ladies can be seen as harbingers of death, but usually only to the people who are similar to those who killed her. So, say if a man cheated on his wife and she killed herself, she would get revenge only on unfaithful men who bear some resemblance to the person who had initially hurt her. The other white ladies are very active spirits and often seen haunting their grave sites or trying to find their loves. Sometimes they are found on the side of the road or in hotels. Generally, they do not like scaring or harming the living, but there are the vindictive ones who will scare and harm and like it. In 1 in 100 cases, the woman in white ghost is vengeful and attacks people traveling alone. She probably acts like this due to loneliness and wants someone to comfort her and forgive her for what she's done. They can be exorcised from their place of haunting, but sometimes they just pretend to be exorcised and will resurface when the coast is clear. They are very attached to their hauntings. One of the first scorned women hauntings would be the ancient Greek tale of a demigoddess. A demigoddess is half god and half human. Her name was Lamia. She was the beautiful queen of ancient Libya. Lamia had an affair with Zeus and had children with Zeus. Now Zeus had a wife named Hera, who just happened to be the goddess of marriage. Now, Hera apparently was not happy about this affair and learned of the children Zeus had with Lamia. Hera killed all of Lamia's children she had with Zeus. Now, Lamia, out of jealousy over the loss of her own children, Lamia's scorn made her lose her looks, and she was disfigured by torment. And Lamia turned into a kind of a serpent that killed other women's children. As queen, she would order her soldiers to snatch children away from their mothers. She would rip fetuses out of pregnant women's bodies and devour them. She is considered to be a child-eating monster and is regarded as a type of night-haunting spirit. As Hera also cursed Lamia with insomnia, so that Lamia was forced to obsess over her lost children. In Greece, Lamia was used as one of the first boogeymen to help children obey. The most famous and my favorite is from Mexico, and she is La Llorona, which means the crying woman. If you haven't seen the movie, check it out. The legend states that beautiful Donna Luisa de Loveros fell madly in love with a handsome married man, Don Nuno de Montesclaros. I have no Spanish training at all, sorry if that sounds wrong. They had 2 illegitimate children together, but he wouldn't marry her. She was scared that Don Nuno would take their children to go live with him and his real wife. This drove her into madness, and she drowned her children. Authorities found her wandering by a bridge and sobbing uncontrollably. They hanged her for her crimes. She now haunts lonely stretches of road or abandoned bridges. If she finds a child left alone, she steals them away and drowns them. Another version is that she was married to the Don and saw her husband with another woman, and in a fit of blind rage, she drowns their children in a river, which she immediately regrets. Unable to save them and consumed by guilt, she drowns herself as well. She is seen in a white, wet dress, usually wailing by the water. In Russia, the spirit called Baba Yaga, she lives in a forest but doesn't go looking for the living. She waits for you to find her, then she gets you and eats you. But if you're looking for a lost child in the woods, she may help you find the missing child without eating you. The tragic story of the ghostly lady wandering through Durand Eastman Park in Iridonquoit. One night, a girl left her home to go for a walk. She never returned. Falling into grief and despair, her mother believed that her daughter had abandoned her to run off with a young man. Neighbors believed that the girl might have been murdered. Wearing a flowing white dress, the mother started walking around outside at night looking for her daughter. After many years, she died without ever knowing what had happened to the girl. In Portugal, in 1983, apparently there was a car accident that caused the death of a young girl named Teresa Fidalgo. People have reported that they see Fidalgo hitchhiking next to the road years after her death. Her story became Portugal's Lady in White legend because it is said that Teresa Fidalgo wears a white dress. The Swiss have a version of the Lady in White. It is unknown who the White Lady may have been when she was alive. She can be seen around the Belgian tunnel. It is thought that she may have been the victim of an accident in the tunnel and is unable to cross over. She appears out of nowhere in front of drivers and sometimes speaks to them. The White Lady of Kinsale is one of the most famous ghosts in Ireland. Her story dates back to the 1600s. Legend has it that a soldier at Charles Fort got married, and he and his new bride stayed over at the fort on their wedding night. The soldier missed his watch duty that night after falling asleep. He ended up being shot dead for it by another soldier. The devastated bride couldn't come to terms with her husband's death and jumped to her own death from the top of a wall surrounding the fort. The Lady in White, who haunts Ballet Drive in Metro Manila, has been floating around since the 1950s. It is believed that the White Lady singles out cab drivers. When she was alive, she was attending the University of the Philippines. The young woman took a cab to get home from school. The driver sexually assaulted and killed her and then dumped her body on Ballet Drive. Therefore, she is now looking for revenge by appearing to unsuspecting cab drivers that use the street. According to German legend, the country's infamous lady in white was the Countess Kunigund in life. Her husband died, and another man named Albrecht von Hohenzollern said he wouldn't marry her because her 2 children were in the way. So she murdered her children by piercing their skulls with a needle. She couldn't escape her conscience for this and eventually visited the Pope in Rome. He told her that she could be forgiven for her crime if she walked on her knees to the valley of Berneck and set about building a monastery. She died during the journey and has haunted all the castles belonging to the Hohenzollern family ever since. In Australia, in 1973, Raymond Grove and a group of his friends held a party at Jenny Dixon Beach and later fell asleep by the campfire. As Raymond was drifting off to sleep, he saw a woman dressed in a flowing white garment reminiscent of the 1800s. Frightened, he awakened his friends. They began throwing objects at the woman, but the objects passed right through her. The man ran away, heading up the stairs to the place where their car was parked. After calming down a bit, they headed back down the stairs only to run into the woman again. She blocked them from going further down. Doing some research, Raymond found that there was a woman whose son had gone overboard during a shipwreck at the beach. He believes that the woman they saw is the mother looking for her son. In the 17th century, a charmer by the name of James Forrester decided to enter into one more affair. It was with his married niece, Lady Christian Nemo. One night in 1748, Lady Christian was waiting for him at the pigeon house within his castle's grounds. He arrived drunk and in a bad mood. An argument escalated quickly and became so heated that Lady Christian ended up killing Forrester with his own sword. She was executed for her crime after her appeal of self-defense was rejected. It is said that she wore a white gown with a hood on the day she was beheaded. It is in this attire that she has been spotted around the pigeon house carrying the murder weapon that she used to kill James. A young man met a pretty young woman wearing a white outside La Recoleta cemetery in Buenos Aires and decided to take her out for the evening. The date went well, and the young girl wore his jacket when she started feeling cold. She took it home to clean after spilling a drink on it. When the young man visited her house the next day to pick up the jacket, he met the girl's mother, who had shocking news for him. Her daughter had died years earlier and was buried in La Recoleta cemetery. In disbelief, the young man rushed to the cemetery and was astonished to find his jacket flung over the girl's headstone. The young girl was Luz Maria Garcia Veloso, who died of leukemia in 1925 at the age of 15. Her grave is on the right side of the cemetery path. Haapsalu Castle in Estonia became the home of monks and canons. Now, canons are priests, and in the 13th century, the grounds included a monastery as well as a cathedral. One of the canons broke the rule of no contact with women when he fell in love with an Asturian maiden and brought her to live with him in the castle under the disguise of a choir boy. This probably is not going to end well. Unfortunately for the happy couple, the bishop soon figured out what was going on. The canon was locked inside a prison cell and was starved to death, and his lover was enclosed inside one of the chapel walls. Builders working on the castle structure sealed the wall, leaving her to scream out in vain for several days before she died. Every time there is a full moon, she appears as a white-clad specter inside the chapel where she died. Okay. In Quebec City, The Montmorency Falls are at the mouth of the Montmorency River, where it drops over the cliff shore to the St. Lawrence River. The waterfalls are 83 meters tall, a full 30 meters higher than the Niagara Falls in Ontario. Almost 1 million tourists a year visit the Montmorency Falls. There are staircases that allow visitors to view the falls from several different angles. A suspension bridge over the crest of the falls, which provides access to both sides of the park. There is also a gondola that carries passengers between the base and the top of the falls. The falls appeared during the finale of The Amazing Race Canada 3 in 2017 and was the site of the episode's first task, in which competitors scaled a cargo net suspended over the falls. The Montmorency Falls are haunted by a lady in white. Her name is Mathilde Robin. In 1759, Mathilde had found her true love in Louis Tassier, in the town of Côte de Beaupré. He was a local farmer and member of the militia who asked for her hand in marriage. Her father approved of the match, and the two were to be married at the end of the summer that same year. They would always take walks along the Montmorency Falls and had planned to have their wedding there. When they finally got engaged, Mathilde sewed herself the most beautiful white wedding dress. There did not seem to be anything that would ruin their day. Tensions between the French and the English were very high. In Europe, the two countries were engaged in what was known as the 7 Years' War. This war spilled out of Europe and onto the North American continent, namely in Canada. Louis was soon sent to fight in the Battle of Beauport, which took place at the base of the Montmorency Falls on July 31st, 1759. The English forces were controlled by General James Wolfe, who is famous for taking Quebec during the Plains of Abraham. He would not be victorious during this battle, although wet air from the falls and a sudden storm ruined English gunpowder, and the British troops were forced to retreat. Wolfe recorded 210 deaths in his journal. The French leader, Louis-Joseph de Montcalm, recorded 60. However, for poor Mathilde, the French were victorious, but her beloved Louis was one of the 60 militiamen who were killed. As the men returned, Mathilde searched for Louis, but she could not find him. She ran to his farm, thinking maybe he had gone home first. He was not there. She asked all the men and the soldiers, but no one had seen him. That was until Montcalm actually came to her and told her the news. Louis had not survived. He had died at the foot of the Montmorency Falls. Devastated, Mathilde ran to her home and put on her wedding dress. She went out to the falls where she was supposed to get married, where Louis had died and where just days before they had their romantic walks. Crying and heartbroken, she jumped from the top, killing herself. Her body was never recovered. People have claimed to have heard her cries, or have seen her ghost in a white dress falling from the top of the falls or through the mists. She is called La Dame Blanche. A smaller waterfall in the vicinity now bears the name Chute de la Dame Blanche, which means Fall of the White Lady, in reference to this legend. She does not interact with the living, and it is warned that the living should not interact or touch her, or else they will die a gruesome death. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Catherine, and this is Canadian Coffeehouse Crime. Please feel free to press the like button and subscribe to my channel as I put a new video out every week. That concludes story 4 of the 2016 Haunted Canada series from the Canadian Stamp and Coin Collection. The next story will be number 5, called The Phantom Bell Ringers from Prince Edward Island. See you in the next case.